Good morning, CLC. I'm going to do something a little different this morning. I didn't run it by Jesse, but I don't think he'll mind, so it's okay. It's Christmas, you know? I invite everybody to take a nice, deep, cleansing breath. Close your eyes if you feel so inclined. And as you do, I would invite you to just picture a happy moment. Whether it was a Christmas from your childhood, or you rushed downstairs and opened presents, or maybe you were a parent and your kids were just enjoying the day and you were seeing it fresh and new through their eyes. Maybe it wasn't even Christmas. Maybe it was just a family dinner or you laying in bed with the people you love. Capture that moment in your mind's eye. Feel the joy that you felt in that moment. See the sights, smell the smells. Most importantly, feel that love, that joy, that peace, that happiness. Let it fill every cell of your being right now. Remember that moment as if it's happening right now, this second. Breathe it in. Take another nice deep breath and breathe that moment in. And as you release, bring your conscious back to this moment, but keep that feeling. Hold on to that feeling of joy. Hold on to that peace and love that you felt in that moment. As we remember together, universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin this inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your hand, and let my words act as your own for your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging this higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems, while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of this infinite presence, I simply speak these words: I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all of my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. Visualizing that idea as already acted upon and brought to pass. In seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words. I accept. Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This can be a friend, a family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in the room with me this morning. I turn toward that image in my mind's eye and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone physically present in the room or virtually on this broadcast, and share in confidence and gratitude and saying, I'm grateful for the good in your lives.
I want to thank everybody who was here last night, which is basically just a couple of you and the team that put this on. It was our first in-person Christmas Eve in 3 years. And it kind of fell apart at the end, but that was my fault, because I just kind of assumed we'd sing Silent Night, and it didn't make it into the program. But overlooking that, it was magical, and it's on Facebook for a little while, and then it's going to be on YouTube forever, and I really encourage you to watch it to hear Reverend Lisa, Reverend David, and Danielle speak. 4 of us spoke, and they were phenomenal. They were phenomenal. We divvied up the Christmas story, the birth narratives, from principally Matthew, as it turned out, a little bit of the Luke birth narrative, but it was, last night's talks were serious, biblical. Today is not. Today's about Santa Claus, principally, and wherever that takes us. Driving here today, there was very little traffic. I want to give another kudo, another round of pats on the back for all of us. There's very little traffic today, because I discovered after we decided what we were going to do here, about Wednesday, there was an article in the paper that says Protestant churches all over town are blowing off Christmas Day services this year because they're having, Christmas Eve, Saturday night, multiple services. Will everybody stay home? And I thought, not Creative Life. No, sir, not Creative Life. We will be there Sunday morning. Do you know in our storied 39-year history we missed one Sunday? One Sunday. Now there were a number, as you know, with nobody in the room, but the production team. But as far as being utterly closed on a Sunday, that happened one time, and that was Hurricane Harvey. And so I congratulate us. I congratulate you on making this your Christmas morning destination. And I will move right to the point, which is Santa Claus doesn't get a lot of respect in churches. Out in the mall, but not in sacred gatherings, especially of the Christian persuasion at this time of year. He's seen as a distraction. He's seen as a dumbing down, a dilution, and I don't agree. As a matter of fact, a man who was the principal assistant to the Archbishop of Canterbury wrote a long article in the Atlantic a few years ago berating Santa Claus. And he said Santa Claus has no moral code, and you need a moral code. Jesus Christ brings a moral code. No argument there, but so does Santa. Santa's is just simpler. Be kind. Just be kind. Be nice. You're naughty, you're nice. Be nice. Don't be naughty. If you're naughty, you get a lump of coal in your stocking. And a lump of coal represents survival. Represents something to keep you warm. It's not an utter diss, you know. It's not a toy. It's not a fun thing, but it's a useful thing. And if you're nice, you get the bounty. You get the bounty of Santa. That's a moral code. Now, what's the distinction between naughty and nice? You know what it is, and I know what it is. We can say, well, I'm on the horns of a dilemma in this situation, but when we get right down to it, we're not. We know the right thing to do. And we know that if we don't know the right thing to do, the best thing to do is do nothing until we do. In other words, go into prayer, go into meditation, go into that place where you go to get your answers, as we were talking about last night. Follow the star to the stable and get your answers, and then you'll know the right thing to do. And that's the delivery system of St. Nicholas at this time of year, is there is a cause-effect response. Santa Claus is basically walking, talking karma in a red suit, with a little hat and reindeer. It's been dressed up with all kinds of mythological stuff stapled onto it, principally out of Northern Europe, but it's really cause and effect. It's done to us as we hear and as we say constantly. It's done to us as we believe. It's done to us as we act. It's done to us as we aspire. Belief at the level of belief is a wonderful thing, but when you take belief into action, it cements the belief in place. It gives the belief a lot more power in life when you've acted on it, when you've lived on it some way. Peter, Paul, and Mary decided to sit down and write a song about the homeless. That's an action that was taken. Is that on a par with feeding the homeless or homing the homeless, housing the homeless, you know? Well, yes and no. I mean, it's a different kind of action, but how many people have listened to that song over the years? How many people listen to it today in this room and in our online viewership who said, wow, I hadn't thought about the homeless today, and it's a good day to do that. There's never a bad day to do it. It's a good day to think about refugees. It's a good day to think about migrants. It's a good day to be nice to the people who aren't nice to you, who have no personal interaction with you, or even the people who've been mean to you. To take the higher road, you know? That's a moral code right there. And it's one that pays off in this life, not in some next life. You know, so much of Western religion is banked on what they call eschatology, which is how it was put this way poetically. It says all peaks are leveled and all valleys raised, you know, when you get to the next world. And everything just, it's all debts are settled, and those who were last are now first, and so on and so on. Well, that's great. And it's another to me, a stall tactic. Because it's in this life where we are right now that the gift is given. It's in this life that the gifts are exchanged, the gift of self for self, you know. And so this is what Santa Claus teaches. It's like he's a role model. He's a role model. We can all use a role model. Now, if you don't like the particular style of role model he is, you can always pick another one, but he's the one for this time, for these couple of days at least, or the Advent season, or however long you keep the Christmas idea in your heart. He's a role model for this. I could dispense joy. I could be a bringer of joy wherever I go in the world. What a nice thing to be. And it pays off. If there's a part of you that says, I want quid pro quo out of this, it pays off. Maybe not from the direction you expect. If you're kind to the stranger, that stranger may not turn around and become your best friend and reward you in kind. They might, but they might not. But something will. Are you open to it? Are we open to it? To where our good is coming from whichever direction it's coming from, including directions that we looked in previously and hadn't seen anything there but coal, you know? Is it coming to us out of the ethers? Is it coming to us out of the magic of the air, of the season, of the night sky, with the star in it? Where is our good coming from? I never know. I never know where my good's coming from. When I was a little kid, and I want to give a shout out here to my late great-grandmother, who was the matriarch of my birth family. She would be 133 years old today. Her birthday was Christmas Day. 133. Isn't that cool? And obviously she's been gone some time, over 40 years. No, she's the world's oldest human by 25 years or something, you know. No, but she was this huge, huge influence in my life. And you know what else she was? A religious scientist. She was a practicing religious scientist. I mean, actually, not just she, like, believed this stuff. She attended religious science services with Dr. Barker and Dr. Grayson in New York City. And I had that to look up to. And she was somebody who just, to me, embodied this whole teaching. And she was nice. And she was kind, but she was also ferocious because she was, as she called herself, she said, I'm a Danish peasant woman. And she had been, and there's a wonderful backstory. I'll tell you some other time. You know, how she got to this country, came through Ellis Island and all this. And she was ferocious. She was a Viking woman, you know. So she was hugely protective of her loved ones, of her family. And she took no grief from anyone, but if she saw some redeeming quality in you, and she did in most people, she made the first move to, to be a bringer of light and a bringer. She did a lot of things anonymously. She did a lot of things under the radar to help people that she saw needed helping. And so growing up with her, I'm starting to ramble here, but I'm reflecting, you know. And growing up with her, we had Santa Claus was there, but mostly we had Nissemen, and Nissemen were, they're Danish figures. You can Nisse, you can look them up. Daniel just did, and they're kind of gnomes, kind of elvy-looking things. Sit around, dolls made of them about yay tall, and they'd sit around. You put them in the windows facing outward, and they were protection, and they were also helpful. And they went back to the old country where they were the spirits of the ancestors of the land. Because your family, how you go back far enough, and your family took that land over from some other family at some point. You know, you go back in the old country like a couple of thousand years almost. And so you went to the spirits of the land and you interacted with them, and they did stuff for you. You'd come out and you'd find a row of corn planted, or you'd find a leak in the roof fixed or something like this. And so they were helpful. And I think of this in relation to Santa Claus. Santa Claus once a year drops down the chimney, brings toys mostly to the kids, and goes away again. These people work 24/7. Which causes me to swerve in my thinking now into something else that Brian alluded to in the song. As we're talking about the homeless and the refugee and the migrant, let's also remember the people who are working today. Remember the people who are shoveling out from the snow. Remember the people who are stringing up the electric wires in the parts of the country that lost power. You know, remember that always when you're at leisure, when I'm on vacation, when it's a downtime for us and a quiet time, there's somebody out there working really hard to keep the lights on and the water flowing and keep the power going and so on. These are our Santa Clauses too, doing this sort of thing. But growing up in this apartment, as I did, in this very old building, we had steam heat. And steam heat works where in the corners of the rooms, or one corner of a room, you'll have a pipe running floor to ceiling, you know, up through the whole building. And that pipe then is connected to radiators, and the radiators sit in each room, and this is how you get warm. And evidently it worked, because I didn't, you know, freeze in my childhood. Here I am. So, but you stayed away from the pipes because they were hot, obviously, and the radiators were hot. And you come into the entry, the vestibule of the building, from being out in the snow, and you take your wool mittens off and you put them on the radiator. And to this day, I can remember that smell of sizzling wool, wet mittens on radiator. Lisa's nodding too. It's a northern thing, you know. And well, in the winter, which is when the steam heat would be on, we didn't have air conditioning. We opened the windows the rest of the year, but these floor to ceiling pipes in the rooms would rattle, because the building was built in 1910, you know, and so there was sediment inside these pipes. It's like your water heater at home. It rattles because it's got crud in it, you know, rust chips and stuff. And so these things would rattle, and the rattle made kind of a, dare I say it, jingling sound. And that was my chimney. See, that's what I had. And that's where Santa was. Now, this is totally illogical because, you know, Santa's not a long cylindrical being who fits inside a steam pipe, much less pops out a radiator. But that's where I got my magic. That's where I got my magic, because there was something going on there that was otherworldly. There was something that was going on there that was supernatural. And I felt it. And so the absence of an actual fireplace, hearth, chimney apparatus made no difference. The absence of an actual, well, there's a roof on the building, but, you know, anyhow, you get the picture. Taking away the logistical impediments to this thing, there was magic there. And I brought this up before at Christmases, and I've thought to myself, well, that's a little silly, you know. I was kind of, you know how kids are kind of naive and they're kind of this. And then I think two things. One is, yeah, but I want that feeling today. I want that feeling today. I don't want to chase it off with common sense. I want that feeling right now. And then I saw this statistic just this week. It says that 53% of American children believe in Santa Claus. I thought, that's nice. I wish it were higher. So 47% have decided to use common sense, and the whole story kind of falls apart in the middle, you know, to them. But 53 are clinging on to this. And then I read further in the story, and it says that 21% of American adults believe in Santa Claus. And I was very happy. You can find this. I'm not making this up. They're hunting it up. Our diligent research team is hunting it up for you right now. 21% of American adults. I do not recall if it was broken down by religious affiliation or anything else, but 21%, 1 in 5 people out there our age believe in Santa Claus. And I say yes to that. Now you sit these people down and you say, what are you, nuts? We've been all over the North Pole looking for this guy. He's not there. NORAD has had, you know, the sleigh, the reindeer. NORAD actually has a feature every Christmas Eve, you know, where they track them and stuff. But they'll tell you it's AI. So where is he? Why can't we see him? Why can't we shake his hand? Why can't we pull his beard? How can he be real if we can't see him and we only know him by his effects? You know who else that applies to? God. Have you seen God? Have you seen God as a standalone kind of thing? Of coming into your life saying, I am God, and you bought it, and you said, can I shake your hand? Can I pull your beard? Can I sit in your lap? Can I tell you what I want? Can I pray to you? You know, no, but a lot of people believe in God, myself included. And all I've seen are the effects. All I've seen is what God brings. God brought you into my life. God brought us all into each other's life, you know? God brought this earth and everything thereon. Some higher power, which we're going to talk about more next week when we get into a series on the 5 steps of spiritual mind tree, starting with the idea of recognizing a higher power. There is a higher power. I believe in it, but I can't prove it to you. I can't prove it to you. And the only reason that you're sitting in a room like this today is that you believe or want to believe in it too. Otherwise, you'd be at the movies, or you'd be at home in your PJs, or you'd be at 100 other places. But you choose to come to a place like this to live in a story about something you've never seen, that you only know the trailing clouds of glory behind, you know? So the belief in something like a Santa Claus is not inconsistent with the general overall religious sympathy. It's just a little different. It's just a little particular and also seasonal. So my encouragement to myself and to you is keep on believing. And keep on believing in April and in August. Keep on believing when the season has packed itself back up and is back in the attic, you know, till next year. Just like when, at this time of year, we remember the homeless and the refugee and the migrant. Remember them in April and remember them in August. Remember them in the middle of the summer where everybody's off, you know, doing other things, and it's the furthest thing from we're maybe, I don't know, on vacation or something, and the struggles of other people are far from our minds except the people that we know closely and love. Remember always to widen your heart to the people you don't know, that you hear are struggling, and you become Santa's helper year-round. You become, or maybe on a more, I don't know, appropriate or serious note, you become an agent of healing. You become a disciple of Christ. You become a bodhisattva. You become a bodhisattva. And a bodhisattva is somebody who has achieved enlightenment. This is in the Mahayana Buddhist tradition. I think Hinayana too, but Mahayana. A bodhisattva is a person who has achieved nirvana, or the right to nirvana, achieved enlightenment, has completed the circuit of the wheel of life, and can now step off perpetual reincarnation and ascend into the heavens, and who chooses not to, who chooses to stay here and do the work that needs to be done. Even though now liberated from the cycle of constant death and rebirth, chooses to stay here and do the work. There are a lot of things we could be up to. We choose to be up to this. Look for the good and praise it. Expect the best from everyone you meet. Send a silent blessing to the people that you hear are suffering, or the people that you don't hear are suffering, but you know that there is suffering in the world, like the Buddha who encountered it and it changed everything for him. You know that somebody out there may not be having the best possible day. At least send them a silent blessing. It works. Smile, like the late great Thich Nhat Hanh used to say, before you answer the phone, smile, you know. Before you begin any exchange with any other living being, bring up a smile in your life. Bring up a feeling of yes, a feeling of pleasantness. And in that way, we do the thing that all the greeting cards and all the songs and all the stuff say about this season, which is to keep it in our hearts. Scrooge learned this. the hard way, really. By going through his own spiritual psychology, going through his own attachments, he learned the hard way to keep Christmas in his heart all year round, all year long. That's what we're here to do. So we are Christmas people. You'll hear our Christian friends call themselves Easter people. Well, we're Easter people and we're Christmas people. And we are the embodiment, as David said last night in his excellent little talk where he said, Meister Eckhart said, I'm paraphrasing here, said, what use is it to me if Christ is born to Mary 1,300 years ago and is not born to me today and in my time and in my world and in my culture? What use is it to me? So we'll make use of it. We'll say today the Prince of Peace is born within each of our hearts. Thank you, Jesus the Christ. Yeshua ben Yosef. Thank you, Father Christmas, Santa Claus. And thank you, all the accompanying angels and elementals and spirits of every possible realm. And thank you, dear beloved Creative Life community, very much. Merry Christmas.
And now we come to giving time. And as our usher makes her way to the back, our beautiful usher, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here with us this morning, whether you're live in person, whether you're virtually on Facebook right now, or whether you're watching us later on. We love you. We hope that you are having a warm, wonderful holiday season. We are so glad and feel lucky to be a part of that with you. And thank you for your energy. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your monetary donations. Thank you for supporting this center in every single way that you do. It's because of you and who you are that we can be here and do what we do. So thank you. And I invite you now to say with me, divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is. And now,
so there was a dress code for last night. There was a dress code for today. Danielle and I took it to heart. She's all in red and I'm all in green. We are the Christmas season between the two of us. Nobody's mentioned the candles in front. I don't know if you can really see them online. The candles were from our talks last night. Jesse asked each one of us to pick a word that went with our talk for the candle lighting, where you invite that energy into your life for the year, for the next season. And I want to remind you that they are illumination, gratitude, humility, and guidance. And I'm going to, because David called me out on it, yes, I did pick humility. The Christmas season is a good time to set aside your ego, and that's part of what humility means. It's about setting aside your ego, thinking of others, not necessarily before yourself, but along with yourself. It's the ego that is me, 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 me. And when we can set our ego aside and go, you know what, sometimes we can put others first. That's humility. So, and that's what it was about. If you want to come into the Christ consciousness, which I like to talk about the Christ consciousness like software. Can you tell my mother is an electrical engineer? Christ consciousness is software. You come pre-installed with that software. The password to get into that consciousness is love. There you go. That's it. So, in the spirit of the candles, I know that there is one life, one power, one presence, one love. Each and every one of us live that life. We are a part of that presence. That power flows through us, and we are divine channels for that love. So as we enter into this new year coming up, I invite you to pick your word or words to focus on for the season, for the next year, for the rest of your life. What is it that you would like more of in your life? Because all you do is ask. Spirit always answers. Spirit always answers. And so I am knowing for you fruition. I'm knowing for you rest. I'm knowing for you guidance. I'm knowing for you illumination. I am knowing for you humility. And I'm knowing for you gratitude, because that is one of the best feelings in the world. And as we move through the holiday season, we soften our hearts, allow them to be moved, allow others' lives to touch us, and amazing things happen. And I know this with all of the gratitude in my being. And I am grateful for a teaching that teaches me this. I am grateful for a place that teaches me this. I am grateful for the ministers, the musicians, the practitioners, the technology, for each and every one of you, for all of life and all of time. And I relax, release, and know that it is so. And so it is.
Say with me now, something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I am.
I choose it.
I choose it.
I trust it.
I trust
I
it.
use it.
I use
And
it.
I love it.
And I love it.
So it is.
So it is.
Spirit